Hey everybody, Kyle Goeth here from GoatFilmReviews.com and the Goat Film Reviews YouTube channel, and I've got my quick thoughts on the new film Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. This is a franchise that I see it almost consistently getting better other than Part 2 with every single installment, or at least getting to that same level of quality, and Dead Reckoning Part 1 is no different. I should address the elephant in the room. The film is a Part 1 of Part 2. There have been a lot of these this year, from the Fast and the Furious having a cliffhanger, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse having a cliffhanger. I feel like there was another one too. Well, I guess the recent Dune Part 1 had a cliffhanger. This is, for me, in recent memory, I can say, the best Part 1 finale into a Part 2. Because I really struggle with, I guess the idea is it's hard to rank these films based on their individual merit when you know it's only half a story. This feels like a complete story. Well, it does feel like there's a spot at the ending where it's like, okay, we know where we're going with the next installment. But this does feel like a complete story that if there wasn't going to be another one, I would feel at least that we're in a good spot. I still want to know what happens next, without a doubt. But I would feel like we're in a comfortable place to end the film. Sorry, it's really hot, so I had to move someplace with some shade where I could put a window down and have the AC on. Anyway, it feels like a complete ending to an installment, and it also feels like it sets you up for, okay, here's where we're going with the next one, and I do appreciate that. As it stands right now, I think my favorite film of the year so far is John Wick Chapter 4. I need a few minutes to think about it, but this is definitely in my top 10 so far this year, and the action set pieces are brilliant, particularly the finale. The funny thing is, I felt like I had seen so much because they keep showing it in all the clips as like how we did the train scene and how we did the this and that, and especially the jump off the cliff. We've seen it in all the trailers so much that I was like, okay, like we know what's going to happen at the ending, and I was like, why do they keep showing us stuff that happens at the ending? And it feels like all the footage I've seen from the jump to the ending on the train and all that kind of stuff, absolutely none of it mattered because so much of it was what I did not see in those featurettes and in those trailers. And I try to avoid trailers for the most part, so I figured I had seen it all, and I definitely had not. I think Tom Cruise is, again, like, the joke that people make about Tom Cruise is that he runs a lot and that he's essentially playing Tom Cruise. But I think if you look at this film in comparison to Top Gun Maverick last year, he's definitely playing characters. They're just subtle versions of the insanity that is Tom Cruise as a human being. So I think he does quite well in the film. I think the real standout for me was Haley Atwell. I adore Haley Atwell. I think she was great in the MCU. I've really enjoyed just about everything that I've seen her in. And this is no exception. I think she owns it because she's, for the first time in a long time, it almost feels like we have a character that the audience can attach themselves to. Because her character is her character is still like, definitely a more like higher up in terms of intensity than the character she's had, but she's also somebody who isn't fully familiar with the world that she's just entered, and that's really cool. I think Ving Rhames, wonderful again. I missed him when we were in, what was it, I think Ghost Protocol, because he just appears in a cameo, but like, you realize how much you miss Ving Rhames when you don't have him, and every single time he appears in these films, I love him. I think Simon Pegg is interesting because he's such a good actor, but he was, at the beginning of the series, a little bit of comic relief, and now he has so much more heart. I think Rebecca Ferguson is one of those actresses that, again, a unique character. I'm happy they keep bringing her back. Palma Clementif as one of the kind of the lead henchmen, if you will. Esai Morales as the villain. Vanessa Kirby was great. And I actually kind of forgot she was in Fallout because I've only seen Rogue Nation and Fallout once, and this film now once. So I need to go back and rewatch the other ones. I just didn't get the time before seeing this one. I'd forgotten she was in Fallout, but seeing her come back and having the history, and again, Henry Czerny returning, the history of these characters feels so lived in right now. It doesn't need to connect to the other films, but the fact that it does aids you in, like, again, I can make the comparison to Fast and Furious. Those films are powerful because of the returning cast, because of the people that keep coming back to join the films. These films are in many of those same ways. I love these later installments because I've gotten to know these characters that have continued to appear, and that's what makes that the characters so much powerful, is that I worry about them. There are specific times in the film where in the back of my head my brain is saying this character's not really in peril because they're one of the mains, right? But then it makes you think that this character might be in peril, and I think this feels like some of the most perilous action that this franchise has had. These characters are in danger, and you believe that, and I really thought that was powerful. The big finale was great. What I love about it is that I compare this to John Wick Chapter 4. that film has such a heightened level of action to it that it's so over the top, and you could almost argue is silly, but it works because the film convinces you it works. This does it in a different way, where this film has a bit, I don't want to say more realistic, because it's crazy over the top, but it is, you're convinced in this film that they've done the over the top homework and made it actually work on film. And I think, again, that's something incredible. So I was really taken with a lot of this film. Again, just like John Wick Chapter 4, I did feel probably about 5 to 10 minutes worth of the length of the film. I think a couple of trimmings here or there could have helped. I do think I want to have the villainous characters who we will end up seeing again, the ones who make it versus the ones who don't. The characters that we end up seeing again from a villainous perspective, I want more fleshed out of that in the next installment, because there's a lot of like foreboding nature of the film, in terms of we don't really understand what we're up against. And I think that's part of it, is we can't even comprehend how much crap we're in right now. And I think the film does a good job with that, but I'd like to see that a little bit more in the next installment, is really like showcase, outline for us exactly the trouble that our characters are in a little bit more. But overall, I can't wait to watch this movie again. I can't wait to own it and watch it. And I'll tell you this right now, in the final few like pieces of the final set piece, I was like almost dripping with sweat with how tense I was, and how they, like, Christopher McQuarrie's directing finds a way to plateau, and you're like, okay, this is as intense as it's going to get. And then he's like, oh, but a little bit more, but a little bit more. And it seems like every time I calm myself down, it's almost like building tension in a horror film, where you get the scare, but then you almost get the joke that makes you comfortable again, and then you get another scare because you didn't realize you're about to get hit twice. That's how his tension works in these action pieces, and it's what makes the action so incredibly, just virile and intense. And I was, very interesting action. Man, this such a great movie. I would say check out the other films, because I think there's a lot, you get to know these characters a little bit more, and then I think there's so many new characters and so many returning characters that it will aid you to know where you're going into it. But honestly, this is an incredible movie, and definitely should be in the discussion for the best in this franchise. Should be in the discussion for the best of this year. Let me know your thoughts on Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 once you've seen it. I wanted more of the Mission Impossible theme, the actual theme itself. I felt like it was trimmed up a little bit in places where that theme really could have been more. That's, again, nitpicks, but let me know your thoughts on the film down below. Give me your favorite Mission Impossible, or rank the films for me. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it. And thank you guys for watching. You can find goatfilmreviews.com for my many written reviews. You can find Goat Film Reviews on Facebook. You can follow me personally at Almighty Goatman on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can check out my show, Kyle and Nick on Film, that I co-host with Nick Plodchuk from the St. Paul Filmcast. All those links are down in the description, and we'll see you next time.